place, and there's more information to be gained throughout the day. Good news from that scene, though. Back here at Virginia Tech, and I'm with Derek Odell, who's a student who was inside the hall as the massacre was taking place yesterday. Derek, the shooter began in room 206, and just across the hall, I assume, is room 207, where you were having a class.
Yes, sir.
You started hearing noises.
Yeah, we heard like sort of a hammering noise on the wall that sounded like construction almost, but then it became very clear and evident that after the shooter entered our room and shot somebody, that there was in fact the shooter.
The reason that Scott was shot in the right arm, and that bullet penetrated your arm, and you were taken to that very hospital, right?
Yeah, I was taken to Montgomery Regional Hospital soon after the shooter arrived in our classroom.
I want to talk more about the classroom, but how are you?
I'm fine right now. Just.
What did they do to you?
They took some X-rays and films and just made sure everything was all right inside my arm.
And no tendons, nothing vital damaged, and they think your arm is going to be fine.
Yeah, they're pretty sure that everything's all right.
I know it's difficult, but I guess it was about 5 or 10 minutes past 9 o'clock yesterday morning, and you started hearing this noise. What happened in your classroom?
We just sort of we didn't make very much of it because we thought it was construction, but once the shooter entered our room, he started shooting a lot of people.
He entered your room. Now, the noises stopped in the room across the hall, and then your door opened, or was it already open?
Yeah, our door was shut at the time. Then he opened our door and then started shooting our professor and a lot of the classmates in the front row.
He shot your professor first?
Yeah.
Your professor who was standing in the front of the classroom?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember seeing him walk into that door, or is it all a blur?
Yeah, I remember a lot of it very vividly.
Take me through it.
The shooter first shot a professor, then he shot the person to the right in front of me, and at that point I dove under my desk and just tried to hide for safety, and I got shot in the arm somewhere in there, and then the shooter continues to shoot people even after they fell out of their chairs and were on the floor. And at that point, after everybody was pretty much motionless on the floor, he left our room, and then I realized I was shot, but I knew I had to barricade the door because he left that open, and he might return to shoot the rest of us.
So after you've been shot in the right arm, you went to the door and barricaded it. How did you do that? With what?
Most of the stuff wasn't heavy enough to just put in front of the door, so we used our shoes and our feet and our hands to try and push them and prop them up against the door and keep it from opening.
How many people in that class?
There were about 17 people. I'd say 14 were shot, and then maybe 5 to 10 critically wounded.
Your professor shot first. Did he survive?
I'm not sure, but I don't think so.
Do you remember when this man, this student, or whoever he is, walked out of this classroom, what was going through your mind, and were you aware of what was happening?
It was just pure shock in my mind. I mean, something that you'd never imagine happening, like something that you see on the news, but escalated to 10 times what it is.
Any clue how many shots he fired in your room?
I know he emptied one round, one casing, and he reloaded, and then emptied probably another 8 to 10 shots.
When you first saw him, do you remember what he looked like, what he was wearing, what his demeanor was?
Yeah, he was very calm, in fact, almost determined to kill people, just very methodical about his actions.
You're a tall guy, probably 6 feet. What about him?
Yeah, he was about 6 feet, male, Asian. He had a leather jacket on him, which he left ammo casings in. He was maybe in his 20s, a student age, kind of short hair, maroon hat on.
Did he say anything?
No, that's the weirdest thing. It was sort of an eerie silence besides the gunshots. I mean, he didn't say anything, no screaming, no yelling.
Was he carrying anything?
Just his gun.
One gun?
Yeah, that's all that we saw.
And then did he reload while he was in your room?
Yeah, he reloaded once.
How did he do that? From where did he get the ammunition?
I think he pulled it out of his jacket. At that point, I was on the floor under my desk, but I remember seeing the casing, the empty one, just fall to the floor, and he reloaded very quickly within 2 to 3 seconds.
Sometimes when there's great trauma, one of your senses works better than the rest. Is there a smell or a sound or a sight that's very vivid?
I just remember the gunshots just echoing through the hall there. There's just an incredible sound to hear. I mean, something that just sends chills up your spine.
At some point, he left the room. Then what?
The door was still open, so we decided to barricade that so he wouldn't be able to return and shoot the rest of the people that are still alive or that were still able to survive.
Were there students helping each other? Were there other faculty arriving?
Nobody else was really coming back into our room because a lot of the people were too scared. They were doing the same thing that we were, barricading the door. But there were probably 2 people who weren't shot, and then 2 people like myself who were only minorly wounded that were helping barricade the door.
Do you remember at some point after the gunman is left and you've gotten out from behind your desk and the barricade is going on, looking around the room and seeing your classmates? I'm trying to get a sense for what that was like.
It was just pure carnage, blood everywhere, blood spewed against the walls. I mean, just the worst imaginable scene that you could ever think of.
I